Now, the death of another Australian soldier in Afghanistan has fuelled that ongoing debate on just whether coalition forces should be pulled out of the country sooner rather than later.
Douglas Feith is the director of the Centre for National Security Strategies at the Hudson Institute, and he's also the former United States Under Secretary of Defence for Policy in the Bush administration. He's here as a guest of the US Study Centre, and he joins us now from Sydney. Douglas Feith, good morning and thanks for your time.
Good morning.
As you'd know, there's a vigorous debate in Washington ahead of the start of the US troop drawdown in July about whether that drawdown should be expedited. Where do you sit on that side of the debate?
Well, I think that the issue has to do with what are the conditions on the ground, and I think there's been a substantial amount of progress that General Petraeus has reported in building up capabilities of especially of local authorities in Afghanistan, and of breaking the momentum of the insurgency that developed back in 2006, 2007. And if the insurgency remains contained and is being pushed back, and the capabilities of the Afghans are increasing, then it should allow for reductions in the future. But the reductions have to be based on whether the circumstances on the ground justify them.
And as you see it, albeit from a distance, do those circumstances justify what many would be arguing in Washington to be a much quicker withdrawal of US troops starting as early as next month?
Well, I'm a little skeptical about that. I think I tend to rely on General Petraeus has a very good track record. What he accomplished in Iraq was quite impressive, and I would tend to rely on his assessment.
Nearly 10 years on from the invasion of Afghanistan, which happened, of course, in the months after the September 11 attacks, do you believe this war is winnable?
Well, I think if we have a sensible, realistic definition of win, it is winnable. Winning doesn't mean that you're going to create an Afghanistan that's problem-free. It means that you're going to create capabilities in Afghanistan so that Afghan authorities can handle the ongoing problems of the country. And I think that we're getting to the point where some of those capabilities are increasing. And the Afghans have a chance to do that.
And where does sitting down and fast-tracking talks with sections of the Taliban sit with all of this? Is that something that may expedite the end of this war?
Well, at some point, if the insurgency is going to be defeated, it's going to be defeated by killing people who are absolutely determined on violence and coming to some kind of political reconciliation with others. And it's a combination. What I think is important is if the Taliban is in a position, having been defeated militarily, that it has key people who are willing to integrate into the new political arrangements, then they should be integrated. But they shouldn't be negotiated with on the basis of their assertion of power that they can basically take charge.
It has been, as I mentioned, nearly 10 years since that fateful day in September 2001, and you're here in Australia for a seminar hosted by the US Study Centre to look at what's happened since then. Douglas Feith, where would you put the global battle against forces like Al-Qaeda nearly 10 years down the track?
Well, I think that there have been some significant accomplishments. Right after 9/11, when I was in the Bush administration, the President set as the key purpose of our actions after 9/11 to prevent follow-on attacks. And it is certainly remarkable from the point of view of Americans that here we are at the 10th anniversary and there has not been a successful follow-on attack. And I think that's a serious accomplishment, and it's to the credit of the strategy that was adopted. I think overall in the world, the problem of terrorism and Islamist extremism remains. But the United States, together with countries like Australia that have been absolutely terrific allies, and there's an enormous amount of appreciation of that, of the Australian alliance in Washington among people who know about it. Because of that work, we've managed to, I think, set back the terrorists in a number of ways, but we haven't completely eliminated the problem.
Can you understand, or is there understanding in Washington, that although that alliance is strong and our contribution in Afghanistan has, on a per capita basis, been fairly strong, that the war is very unpopular here? There's another poll out today showing most Australians want Australian troops to pull out and pull out quickly.
Well, Australia has paid some very serious prices, and I saw that yet another Australian was killed in Afghanistan, and these are tragedies. I mean, each loss. So it's perfectly understandable that after a while people say, you know, when can it be over? But the stakes in Afghanistan remain high, relating to the security situation in Afghanistan and in Pakistan. And if the situation were to unravel because of a overly precipitous withdrawal from Afghanistan, there would be very high prices to be paid in security throughout South Asia and Southeast Asia, and I think the Australian government understands that, and understands that even though the sacrifices are large, the stakes are very high.
And you mentioned Pakistan there. Can the US, can Australia, can any of the other allies truly trust the government there to be on our side in the fight against forces like Al-Qaeda?
The government in Pakistan does not have the kind of general control over all the key institutions in the country that people in advanced democracies like Australia or the United States are accustomed to. The government in Pakistan doesn't have full civilian control over the military, over the intelligence services, and there are tensions within the government. I think there are people in the government who are in Pakistan who are intending to do the right thing, but there are elements of the Pakistani government that are not well-intentioned and are not open and honest with us, and that's a big challenge in our dealings with the Pakistani authorities. I don't think that the answer is for us to turn our backs on Pakistan and treat them as hostile. But we do have to recognize that we have serious complexities and problems in our dealings with them, and you can't assume that everybody that you're talking to there is lined up with the same strategy or set of ideas.
Okay, Douglas Feith in Sydney, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Good to talk to you.